Hello, guys. David Vos here again. It's a beautiful day on Red Mesa here in Paradise. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's summer and it's pleasant, and I'm really enjoying this beautiful summer that we're about to have. But today, I want to talk to you about something that I think is a breakthrough. I think it's a revelation. It's odd to me because I think I had this revelation before, but they're fleeting moments. Revelations come in fleeting moments. When you're young, you don't know what those things are. I don't even think a lot of older people know what those things are. But when you have a lot of time and you're out in the woods like I am, you begin to come into touch with parts of your being and your thoughts that you weren't in touch with when you're in the hectic city life or the chaotic living, working 9 to 5, all of the things that people do every day where there's a lot of noise and you don't ever really hear the quiet, because there is a quiet place. And I think some of you probably think, well, I don't want to go there because I don't like it quiet. I like noisy, fun, adventure. Well, there's a time and a place for everything. And adventure does sometimes have a lot of noise, a lot of speed, a lot of things flying around that you're just trying to catch it all. There's so much excitement. And it's a thrill. But guess what? Everything, for every action, there's an opposite reaction. So when you are running as fast as you can, that's a good thing. But you can't do that very long, and you got to slow down and stop. And then you got to rest. A lot of times you're like, you got to breathe, So like, okay, do you like breathing like that? Do you like going through the tiredness where you just literally can't go on anymore and you fall to the ground to your knees and you got to lay under a pine tree in the middle of nowhere and just catch your breath? And as you're laying there, you start smelling the pine in the air and the, the musty smell coming up from the ground, and out of the corner of your eye, you're noticing a little bird fluttering down, doesn't realize you're sitting there real quiet like, and he stops and perches on a branch right like 2 feet from you, and he doesn't realize that you're even anything other than a plant. And so you get to look at this beautiful bird, and it creates a sense of wonder. That's what life is: overcoming trials, victories, exhaustion, because you worked for something and you're proud of what you worked for. And that's one way of putting what I want to tell you today about your life that you need to know. Some of you are saying to me, well, I'm just not happy, or I'm sick and there's nothing I can do. I've tried everything. Or I don't have the things I want in life and I'll never get them. And life is just unbearable and I'm unhappy. And there's a lot of things we could give as an example, but you know, this revelation that I had. Like I said, I get flickers of this. I get feelings. But it seems like lately I've been capable of really understanding some subtle truths that I should have. I gotta plug this in. That I should have known, that everybody should know, but I don't think anybody knows. I didn't really understand this either. It is something, even if you partially understood this, it's kind of like what the Apostle Paul said. If you think you know something, you do not yet know it as you ought to know it. And I suppose we're going to be learning these great truths for all of eternity. There's an infinite plane of existence. And how do I know that? Because I exist. I don't exist in places of consciousness where I'm conscious. And there are other places where I exist where I'm not conscious. Those other places that I exist where I'm not conscious, then they're not what I am. Those are just ideas that I have floating around in my head, but that's not who I am. I am only what I believe I am, what I know, what I think, even if I have a lot of potential of being something greater. But until I receive that greatness, I cannot be great. Until I receive that cup of water, I'll still be thirsty. You know, and if you're a metaphysicist and you think, well, there's no such thing as water and there's no such as thing as my body, and so I'll just live without that water. I don't need that water. Well, look at the water as an experience, as something beautiful that you need to experience, or else you are not at your potential. Imagine the most beautiful place on earth that you've ever seen in your life. Now imagine having never seen it. Well, that's kind of hard to do. But you'd be better off for having seen it. But more than just seeing it is the experience that you're going to get that will now need to be shared with others. You're going to want to go home and tell your family, I saw this and it was so amazing. That's part of life too, for those of you who don't believe in love or purpose. Because there would be no reason for me to see something beautiful if I wasn't supposed to share it. That's the purpose. And therefore, this proves that there are multiple conscious sponges in the universe that are waiting for an experience, for an adventure. And when they get that adventure that they crave, and they will go through the trial and the trouble, they will work out every day for a month, for a year, to get strong so they can go hike up to Kilimanjaro or the Big Rock Candy Mountain in Idaho on the Canadian border. And it will be sometimes a harrowing experience. Sometimes we get back and we say, oh my goodness, you won't believe this. I climbed this mountain and almost fell off. I was dangling from a cliff for an hour and barely escaped with my life. And you're like, oh my goodness, that's terrible. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you about the experience. I'm excited because I overcame it. That moment where I had to be my best and pull it together, I'm proud of myself. In fact, I got pictures of it. Would you like to see it? You see, it's imperative that we go through pain. It's imperative that we go through trouble. But let me stop there, because I think you know where I'm going with this. But let me get back to this little revelation that I had. I was sitting in my chair in my cabin last night after it got dark and it was evening, and I'd gone into the cabin getting ready for bed. And I remember thinking that I didn't deserve to be happy. I wasn't quite happy, but I didn't deserve it. And it struck me that I didn't deserve to be happy, that I had no right to complain that I wasn't completely happy. I had been thinking about this, well, maybe all my entire life, this thought train came up, but I never got on that train and reached the let's go to the answer junction. I just sat there on this train car, staring out the window, wondering why I couldn't be happy. But it was like last night we pulled into some kind of a here's the reason junction. And we pulled in and I heard the bell, toot, toot, everybody get off. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to get off at this junction. But we got off and I was forced to get off. And I started looking around and I noticed that everybody was happy. And I thought, well, why am I not happy? And the reason was because they wanted to get off at this junction because they were the lucky ones. They were the ones who were chosen to be ready for this revelation. And they happened to be on that little train car with me. And I was now in a class that I didn't know it, but this was a special class. We were ready to graduate to an amazing new adventure. And I was one of the chosen ones. Somehow or another, it was like coinky dink. I got on a train and there it was. And I got dropped off at the here's the reason junction. I was never capable of understanding the reason why I wasn't happy. I was never before in my life ever capable of understanding the reason why I was so sad. Probably because when this train first got going out of the gate, I was only 13 and I was going through so much stress and all my family was leaving me and I was so immature. I was not an adult. And so therefore I had this, I needed my mommy. I needed my friends. I needed my understanding, my religion. I couldn't bear losing all of this, what I thought was me, my life. I didn't want to lose it. And I was like a spoiled brat in a sense. When somebody comes along and takes something from you, like they took your seat. I was sitting there and we never thought, well, maybe it doesn't really matter. It's not my chair. I'll go find another chair. But when you're young, you let things like that get to you. Well, he didn't have to do that. And then you're mad at that person for what they did. And so now you're upset. And the rest of the field trip is going to be negative. All you can think about is how that other kid treated you badly and it was unfair and it's just not right and, that was your seat. Wait a minute. While you're angry at this other kid, feeling and being overwhelmed with all of this anger and frustration because, well, why? Why would we naturally do that? Children do that naturally because we haven't learned yet that there's enough adventure and happiness for everybody. There's plenty of seats on the bus, and there's a variety, and every seat's got its own, we haven't learned that there's more out there. That it's not like a finite universe when we're going to miss out. There's love to go around, and we haven't learned that yet. We didn't learn that if we just go over there and put our arm around our friend and say, "Hey, no problems. How you been?" and just, enjoyed the conversation with this kid and find a new friend, expand your horizons. You don't even know this kid, but you believe that what you know already is all there is. And all you know about this kid is he's bad because he took your seat. But what you don't know about that kid is he might end up being your best friend. He didn't even know you were sitting there. You didn't have to make it negative. But that's just one small example of the fact that in every moment we can either take it in a negative way and ruin our day, or we can take it a good way and make it a better day than it would have ever been possible before. Without that new friend, you wouldn't even have had that great day on the field trip going to Wonder Bread Factory to see how Wonder Bread is made, right? But you sulked and you followed behind the end of the line and you kicked the pebbles as you were going and mumbled under your breath and you were mad the whole time and had a terrible day. But instead you could have said, "Hey, friend," and it never would have crossed your mind that that kid didn't like you or was being mean or anything, and you just found a new friend and you were happy. All right, now that's a very simple illustration that explains something very important. But I'm about to share something much bigger than that. So as a young person, or sometimes as an old person, because sometimes we don't grow up. There's a lot of old people that have these immature ways. They're doing the same thing that young person did on the school bus, and they're 70 years old, right? The neighbor came over and said something mean to them. So now they don't like the neighbors. And for the rest of their life, they got bad neighbors. But instead, what you should have done was assumed that the neighbor had good intentions and went over there and started a conversation and became their best friend. Now you get to enjoy the rest of your life in that area with friends rather than an enemy. But those are simple illustrations that when I tell you them, you probably immediately think, "Oh yeah, Dave, you're right. Oh, I always do that. Yeah, I'm the gregarious person. I'm always having fun." But you might be very sick and overweight. You might be in the hospital, but you're the hospital clown. Everybody loves you in the hospital as they're all dying. You see, so yeah, there are people that can be more prone to making friends and having a better life, and yet still fall into other traps of addiction or other problems. And their life becomes unbearably troublesome. So that's not always the gauge, is whether somebody's got a smile on their face when you see them. Because some people don't even know how to express themselves. They might be feeling like hell inside, dying in their spirit, and still be smiling. But not because they're courageous and strong, but because they are literally unable to express themselves. They're dying and they can't let anybody know. So it's not always a clear gauge of where somebody is spiritually just because they're always running around telling jokes. I'm talking about something far deeper, something, it's a spiritual wisdom that some people might have. And I guarantee after what I understood last night, I don't think that there's very many people that have ever learned this trick. And I think the whole thing I'm about to share with you is best explain by starting off saying what I already said. You don't deserve to be happy. You don't deserve to be well. You don't deserve to be prosperous. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. We all deserve to be prosperous. We all deserve to be happy. We all deserve to be well. But what I'm saying by that is that if we're going to go somewhere in the car and have a little drive through the countryside, maybe go fishing, that's a good thing. But if you don't put gas in the car, you can't get there unless you walk. And so if you think in your mind, if you don't even know that there are things you have to do to prepare the car for the trip or the fishing pole or the fishing gear, you got to put shoes on. You got to put your pants on. For anyone to assume that they ought to be able to have a great day fishing, but they didn't wake up in the morning, jump up early, get the coffee boiling. They didn't get their fishing tackle ready. They didn't put their britches on. And yet they still want to have this wonderful day going out fishing. You can't. You don't. Maybe I shouldn't say you don't deserve to be happy or go fishing or have a good day. That's not what I mean. We all deserve it. But we shouldn't expect to have a good day going fishing if we don't go fishing. If we choose not to go. If we choose not to put our britches on and get the tackle ready. If we choose to sit around being angry about what the neighbors did, then we're not going to have that good day. So it's not that maybe I shouldn't use the word deserve, but I'm going to use it because it seems appropriate the way I'm using the word deserve. Just keep in mind that ultimately we all deserve to be happy, and we all will be one day. But what I'm trying to tell you is there are things you need to do to be happy. There are things you need to do to be well. You must take the responsibility. And there are certainly a lot of us that don't deserve to be happy. So, for instance, I live out here on my little ranch or whatever it is, my little Red Mesa property with my little cliff and my ducks and my chickens and my cats. The kittens are already, I don't know, got their eyes open and they're crawling around. They're so beautiful. Oh, they're so beautiful. I'll show you a picture of them here. But in order to have the joy of being here, I need to do the things that gives me that joy. I mean, I can sit around here and wait for something good to happen and then go, man, nothing good ever happens around here. Ha. Or I can take the responsibility for making my life something that I'll be happy with. So that is kind of lost from human beings. We no longer understand in this world we live in that the reason we're here is to take nothing and build something out of it with our ingenuity. Everything is provided for us on this planet. The Lord has given us a world where we have all the resources. Even in this day and age, you can find all the resources that you will need to have a wonderful life and to be living in paradise and to be completely happy and live forever. I truly believe we can live forever, we can be happy, but if we're going to let the pain that they gave us in these MK Ultra mind controlled groups, we may have been raised Jehovah's Witness and thrown out on our ear, and we might have had to go through all the pain and the sorrow of losing our families. Or we might have been somebody who was born and raised in a slum where there was really not much hope. Our families were generationally kept in a place where they couldn't succeed. We never had any money. We weren't rich. We didn't know how we were ever going to get rich. And we were told that the only way we could be happy is if we could get rich. We had a lot of money and could buy a new car. Well, see, people that went out west in the gold rush days, all they had to their name was a couple of pair of breeches, maybe some long underwear for the cold nights, an cast iron pot in the frying pan, a bag of beans, a bag of potatoes, a bag of flour, a bottle of whiskey, maybe a mule, a couple of horses, 2 or 3 head of cattle, a cat, a dog, and a wagon. And that's it. Now, that might seem like a lot, right? Because it is all you need. How much would that cost today if you bought all of that? Well, let's see. 3 head of cattle, 2 horses. Well, it might be more money than you could even scrape up if you're broke. But if you're talking about a lifelong pursuit, you could definitely do it. And I know a lot of you are thinking, oh, wait a minute, Dave, I don't want no cows. I want to live in the city. I want to be a dancer. Well, if you're going to be a dancer, although I don't know how happy that's going to make you in the long run, it may just be an illusion that they put into your mind and told you that's what's going to make you happy, is if you're a star, right, doing a ballet in Las Vegas, right, doing a hoochie coochie behind Michael Jackson. Ooh, ooh, you're doing the backup, and that's what's going to make you happy, living in a penthouse in the middle of well, I was going to say slum, but it isn't a slum. You're in a penthouse, right? And you got an elevator that goes up to the weightlifting room, and you can go to the top of the building and drink your wine or champagne or your beer and look out over the whole city and see all the lights. Man, you got it made. You're uptown now, right? But that's a boring life. Instead of naturally living and your body functioning and it has muscle because you walk and you lift and you do things and you build your life and you're happy. Now you've got the balance, homeostasis, the balance of all the testosterone and cortisol and all the things, and your body's feeling better and you're out in nature eating right. You're physically going to be more balanced, so therefore it lends to your mind being more balanced. But what you want is to find an unnatural life in the sterile city where you're dancing and having parties every night. That's what you want. But you see, what you don't understand is that's just the addiction of pleasures and the extravagant lifestyle that doesn't lead to happiness, but only moments of pleasure and fun, and then waking up in the morning with headaches and hangovers and and one day 20 years from then you wake up, you don't have children, and nobody gives a crap about who you are, where you are. You're still in this little apartment in the city. It feels wrong. If all you got to look forward to every day is a cold metal bench to lift some weights and maybe a nice car to get you to your job where you can punch the clock and work for other people, they pay you well. You got the nightlife, but you're not building anything that you can be proud of. You look back on your life, you say, well, what are you proud of? Well, look at that snapshot. You notice how my shoulders were all built up and I had this great physique because I was working out every day, drinking my protein shakes and yeah, a different girlfriend every night, right? I had the brunettes, the blondes, the redheads, the Chinese, the African, the Somalian, I had them all. Ooh, I had fun. Okay. Well, that's like one thing that's in your mind that you can look back on. It kind of blends into one thing. You had a good time. But where is your homestead? Where is old Nellie that you helped birth with your two hands? Where is your old Yeller that was that faithful dog that was always with you when you went hiking, and and that time that you spent with your children and your family building life? But you're lying in a hospital room with a tube up your nose because your legs are atrophied. You don't realize it, but you're just doing things that an evil, demonic presence is trying to convince you. The least resistance, just lie around. And that's what pleasure is. Addictions. And this leads to pain because it's not balanced. You see, the natural instinct is to live in the environment that we were made, our own real environment that is a part of us. We are a part of this creation. We need the flowers around us. We need the mountains. We need the fields waving in the wind on a moonlit night. We need to know how to ferment those beans or plant that corn or grow that vine, and 10 years later notice that it's now climbed up the entire tree and over the other side of the barn, and it's just beautiful, and there's bees, and we've got beehive honeycomb over there that we can enjoy. It's good for us, and we love showing it to friends that stop by. We show them the garden, we show them what we've done. It's not something that you build and then it gets taken away, or you just did it for the pleasure that comes and goes, but you did it to build your life. And when you do that, you deserve the reward, because if you take some land and it's just lying there fallow, it takes work. You got to work the land and plant the seeds and wait for the harvest. You cannot receive the harvest without the planting. And so if you never plant because somebody's given you some food that's probably poison, but they're giving you everything you need, and you're in a little box and you don't care because you just sleep in there anyway. And when you come out of that box, all you do is run around and jump and fill your body full of addictions, which is slowly killing you and murdering you. And then you wake up one day and say, oh, this is a terrible life. I don't understand it. Why am I dying? And I'm not happy. And you can't even imagine how, if you had, as you get on later in years, if you had a daughter or a son that actually cared about you, or a wife or a husband or brothers and sisters, that you would go fishing together. You'd run home every day to your wife to share the adventure that you had every day and see the look on their face. That's what life is. But it isn't just that. Because all of that look on their face and all of that comes with accomplishments. And if you don't have any accomplishments, you can't literally feel that feeling of accomplishment. But it isn't just accomplishments. That's a big part of it. Building a life, having a home that you can always go back to, with a tire swing and a rope that hangs off of a cliff. You can fling yourself out into the water, and you can go fishing, and you can have all these memories with your grandpa and all the things that life is about, but you don't have any of it. And not only that, like I said, because you're in the city and you're doing all this, you're not eating right. And 10 years goes by and you start realizing that you're not really healthy and you're not physically well and your body doesn't do what it used to do. And not only that, you're not so good looking anymore. None of the girls even want you anymore. So now you're just some old guy sitting around with a whiskey bottle watching violent porn, wishing you were dead. You don't deserve to be happy because even then, after all that, maybe you're 40 years old, you've given up. You still don't realize it's all your fault, that you got to get up and have a plan, buy you some land. Oh, I can't do that. I can't afford that, Dave. Oh, but you can afford a penthouse in the, what, in Las Vegas? You can't afford that, but you made a way because that's what you wanted. You wanted the girls, you wanted the drugs, you wanted the dancing, you wanted the parties. And you got it. And that was your life. You made the choice. Now you're going to die. You don't deserve to have that eternal life in paradise because the eternal life is when you have homeostasis, is when you're balanced, is when you're eating the right foods, you're in the right nature, the right ecology, right environment, and you're with the people you love, and you're building the things that you like, and it is something that took you a lot of effort, and there was pain, but the rewards were great. You started off with a cabin, and you ended up with a mansion. You started off with 3 chickens and a dog, and you ended up with a whole herd of sheep and cattle and all the experiences that goes with that, the fence post you put in and how your buddy Bill stumbled over a rock and fell down the cliff and fell in the water, and then he was wet and it was so funny, and and all the things that you went through in life and all the stories you told along the way. You didn't do it. It's like saying, I want to be rich one day. Okay, you're just sitting around waiting for it to fall out of the sky. No, you go and you become a what? An investor or something. You got to do something. But that is what most people pursue. They want to be rich, so they go out there and they get their degrees and they work night and day. And then finally they get rich, and when you're rich, you don't have to do anything because you're just sitting around with somebody feeding you with a spoon as you're lying around in a bed with a tube up your nose, and you're physically exhausted and you're going to die. It's almost like you sold your soul for a little pleasure, but now you got to pay the Pied Piper. And so that's the extreme of it that you will be able to see I'm right when I show you that extreme view. But let's take it back a notch. Let's just say you did your best and you all your life wanted to be somebody who had a ranch and you love animals and you want to eat right. You're a vegetarian, but you're still not happy. Well, this goes deeper, friends. It goes deeper. Because when you wake up in the morning and you feel like your life isn't right and you're not happy, and because you're not happy, you drink more coffee than you should have. You sat reading the newspaper, reading about all the war and scrolling on your phone too long, and now your hand hurts and your eyes hurt, and you're starting to feel disillusioned, all this negative. You're letting all these demons in, right? And you're getting more and more negative, and you're postponing what you know you got to do. You got to go out in the garden. You got to plant this. You got to do that. You got to, you wanted to take that hike. You ain't got time for that right now because you're still wondering how you're even going to be able to muster up the courage to get up and finish the dishes. And what you don't realize is that while you're feeling sorry for yourself, you just lost the opportunity to have a good day. You should have woke up that morning, ignored every feeling of gravity. You're at the bottom of the hill. You know it's going to be tough. You're not going to sit around, oh, it's going to be hard and I don't know if I can make it. No, you just put your backpack on and make sure you lace up your shoes and got a smile on your face. You're all prepared for an adventure. You got your camera, you're going to take pictures, and you start up the hill. You don't dilly-dally. You don't sit and say, oh, I don't like it. Why am I feeling like this? Why is the mountain hard? I don't understand. No, you just start walking, and as you go, you forget about the pain in your legs walking. It's worth it because you saw a butterfly, you saw a bird, you saw a deer. You got up halfway up the mountain, you looked off, and you could see the whole valley. You're like, oh, man, I can't wait to get to the top. Then it becomes the adventure, but you didn't do it. And every day is exactly the same. This applies to your daily life. It applies to your vocation. Do what you want to do. And don't pick a job like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. No, or a scientist. Forget all that. Ain't real. That ain't life. The only real life there is living in this world, in nature, with these resources. They're the only ones the Lord gave us. And a lot of people are sitting around, they're spoiled brats. They're like, well, I'm gay and nobody likes me and I'm mad because I can't live the life that I want and I can't, put horns on my head and scales on my back and make everybody, call me by the proper pronouns. And I'm just so mad at the world because they're so evil and they won't let me be who I want to be. What you're doing is nonsense. That is not the normal, natural life. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, Dave, how dare you tell me what I should like and what I should want? I'm not telling you what you should want. You like vanilla, I like chocolate, whatever. What I'm telling you is if you are so mentally disturbed that you think that life is sitting in a penthouse partying every night, sleeping with a new prostitute every day, you're fooled. And not only are you fooled, but the whole world is fooled. Because they all think that they're supposed to sit around and clap their hands and go, oh man, that's so wonderful, your choices in life, and look at you having all this fun, breaking people's hearts, lying around with your legs atrophying, and now the taxpayers got to pay for this hospital visit with a tube up your nose, and we got to pay for your funeral, and we got to, what? I know a lot of you think I'm just mean, but I'm not. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to get you to understand that you may have spent your entire life walking around thinking that you're entitled to anything and everything, and if I want a Pepsi 32-ounce gulp every time I go to the store, and a pack of cigarettes, and I want to live my life on drugs, and I want to have all this and that, it's not fair if God makes me feel pain when I get old and I die of cancer. I'm sorry, but you chose the pain and the cancer. You didn't accomplish anything. You don't have a homestead. You don't have a family because you don't like traditional marriage and you don't want kids. You want to have fun. And so, all right, you got what you want. You paid for all the pleasure, and you should have known that that's what you were going to get. Too much pleasure and no real effort at trying to live in harmony. And this is where faith comes in, because you see, a lot of people, you'll say, well, now the Lord loves you and he built a beautiful world. He created a world for us, and he gave us all the resource and all this wonderful stuff. We're going to live forever in happiness and paradise. And they're like, I don't want to do that. I hate your God. I don't want to live in paradise, you fool. I want to live in hell. I don't want to look normal and healthy and, unmutilated. I want to live where I'm expressing how angry I am at God. I'm so angry not only at God, but at you. Don't you speak to me of God. Don't you speak to me of paradise on earth or loving one another and caring for one another. Dadgummit, those Chinese are not my brothers and sisters. I want to murder them all so that we can have a better economy and live high on the hog in our penthouse. And I deserve to have my opinion on that. No, you don't. I'm sorry. I don't like your opinion. Your opinion is nonsense. You're a liar. You're lying to yourself. You cannot have this modern life of pleasure and irresponsibility and then expect your life to be good. Some of you have gotten so spoiled. Have you ever seen a spoiled child, 3 or 4 years old, screaming in the aisle at Safeway and Walmart or something? And you think, my goodness. Immediately, you know that kid was spoiled. They give the kid everything. They don't teach the child discipline. They don't ever say no. They don't even talk to the child. They're too busy shooting up in the corner and spending time with their friends. They don't even talk to their children. They wish they didn't have any children. They're just like you. They hate this world of life. They don't want to have a home. They want to have a home in the project with trash all over the floor and needles laying around and gunshots out the front door. And they'll sit around and complain about how awful their life is. And say, well, I haven't got the money, Dave. I'm on welfare. I can't get out of the situation. God did this to me. I hate God. Right? I don't want to live. I hate this world. Well, you want me to live forever? I'd rather die right now. Right? And you're just seeking death. And you're so deceived that you don't even realize that you've not just destroyed your physical life, but you've destroyed your will to live. You've destroyed your own ability to have happiness because you've convinced yourself that the lie is the truth and the truth is the lie. You're living a lie. This entire world, this entire Babylon that we live in is a lie. And your lifestyle is a lie. And your desires, what you think you want in life, you're an idiot. You're so fooled by Satan. He's possessed your very soul. And you think that Satan is your own being. You think that you are Satan and that's what you want. How could you have gotten to a place where you're so deceived that you actually think you want death rather than life? Well, it's a little bit like you see somebody that's a muscle builder and they look fit. They're always drinking fruit smoothies and protein shakes, and they look awesome. And they even look happy. But what you don't realize is that is just like somebody who has a TikTok account and they go on every day twerking, half naked, smiling, pulling pranks on people, making all the money. Everybody wants to see their pranks and their stupidity and their twerking and their insane conspiracies and their their little comments like, well, I don't want to be a good person. I'd rather be a devil. Oh, I think it's so funny. Well, you see, it's easy to know that the truth is that if you went to that person's house, you'd find that they're living in a hellhole. They're depressed. There's nothing to this supposed happiness that they're portraying on their TikToks. They want you to believe they're always happy and running around, and they're just living the life. Orgies and parties and, yeah, eating binges and pizza crust laying around behind the couch and side the cushions and empty beer cans laying around. But man, they're having fun, right? No, they're not. They're not having fun. They're having hangovers. They're having breakups. They're having fights and arguments. They're having a sense of, why am I living? What's the purpose of life? You know, I wanted sex, I thought, but the person that I was having sex with doesn't like me anymore because I'm a piece of shit. And I forgot about that part, friendship and loyalty. And so therefore I lost all my supposed friends. And now I'm alone. And now I'm going to blame it on God because he made this evil world. Or I'm going to blame it on my family. Or I'm going to blame it on a religion. Well, you can, in a sense, blame it on the devil. You can blame it on your parents. And to some extent, it is partially their fault, just like it's your fault. They could have done what you're supposed to do when they were younger and gave you a better life, but they didn't because they were also deceived and pulled in by this nonsense, by these lies. Your parents didn't deserve to be happy either. And guess what? They weren't. And by doing that, they actually ruined your life. Well, what they should have done was forgiven their parents and become mature and did things properly. But you know why they didn't? Because nobody ever told them. The entire world's running around pretending that this is normal. We have an entire world of spoiled brats, of insane, confused, very confused individuals that are not normal. They've been mentally destroyed in their mind with this MK Ultra mind control going on in the world. The entire society is a lie and it's destroying your mind and your body. And the only way out for anyone is to get out of Babylon. And for those of you who say, well, I don't believe the Bible teaches that, Dave, forget the Bible for just a moment. Use your own logic. If this world is a Babylon type place of indulgence and, well, just look at the food, chips and candies and garbage. You must know that, right? You know that that's killing your body, that's not going to make you healthy. So you get that, right? Do you also know that the things you're thinking, the ideas you have about what you need to do for life and whether you're going to have a family and whether you're going to live in the country or the city or whether you're going to have a wholesome life and eat right and live right and be kind and say nice things to people when you walk by and try to think about others' happiness and not just yourself, or about loyalty, or about liking things that are likable and not things that are stupid and evil. You can't run around saying, I like dark, evil, wicked things and say, well, that's just me, Dave. Leave me alone. I get to do whatever I want and expect to be happy. What you're doing is deluding your mind and you're never going to be happy. And I have to break the news to you. If you are going to have this attitude, you're going to die a miserable, miserable, wretched life. And you're going to want to blame somebody. You're going to say, maybe the Lord is evil because why did he allow this? Look, this world is ready-made for perfect life and happiness and paradise. It's up to us. Can you imagine if you got a puppy and you brought him home and you gave him a field to run and play and daisies and plenty of food and a nice little warm bed he could come in when he was tired. You rubbed his back. You played frisbee with him. And the dog said, you know what? I don't want any of that. I just want to go in to my bed and lay there and never get up and move or run or play. And then all of a sudden the dog developed arthritis and stomach issues. And because he didn't want to get up to eat, because he didn't like walking or whatever, he decided, no, well, this is just me, Dave. That's just the kind of dog I am. I don't want to walk or eat or move or play. Well, the dog would have nobody to blame but himself for his poor health and for his untimely death. You gave the dog everything he needed. But you see, if you gave the dog everything he needed and allowed the dog to go out and play and have all these things, the dog would be healthy. By nature, he would love running around in the field of daisies, catching snowflakes on the end of his tongue. He would love it. And just as humans would naturally love being in the world and having families and swimming in the river and eating wholesome food, we would all love it. But we've been deceived into thinking that that's the kryptonite, that the real life is living in the city, fornicating and drinking whiskey all night and on drugs. We've been lied to. We've been told that a life running around, sleeping with as many people as we can, no loyalty, angry at everybody, is the life that we should have, and it's our choice. You know, from the government pulpit, they're telling you that everybody has their own choices in life, and some people like to be dark and worship Satan, and some people don't believe in deity, and that's their choice. And some people don't believe in being good to their neighbor. Some people are racist, and that's their choice. And some people are bigots, and that's their choice. And some people are lazy, and that's their choice. Some people like to party all night long and sleep with various people, and that's why we've got a nightlife in every city. We create. It's a business. And we've got to advertise and tell you that you'd be better off if you just spent the night carousing and being unloyal and putting poison in your gullet. It's a business, and it's being advertised all around you. You can do whatever you want. You can be a patriot and go kill all the Chinese, because that way there'll be a better economy in this country and we can live a better life. How dare those Chinese want to eat? What about the people in the Philippines or the Bangladesh? They're starving. Well, that's our right to not care. Leave me alone. I'm an American, dadgummit. Right? And I'm a bodybuilder and I do my twerking, and that's what I want to do. And I'm going to make a lot of money sitting around twerking the rest of my life. And when I get older, I'm going to be so happy. No, you're not. You're lying to yourself. This is not the world that, forget that God made. This isn't the world that you should make for yourself. And if you think that making a world that is depleted, unbalanced, negative, hateful is not going to lead to you wanting to not even be alive anymore, it's not going to lead to you not even understanding why the world is so bad, because you no longer realize that all the bad and all the evil is your choice, that we're all responsible for our choices, and that there are proper and natural choices that we probably should make. Like, yeah, if I'm hungry, maybe I need to plant a garden. Well, how dare you tell me I have to plant a garden, Dave? I don't want to plant a garden. I don't want a homestead, and I don't want to get married and have children. Okay, well, then the world will just stop having children. We'll all die, and you'll be in a nursing home, and I've got to somehow come up with some, resources to figure out how I can get somebody down there, a nurse, to take care of your sorry ass when you're lying in there with a tube up your nose dying. No, that's wrong. And you're literally an idiot. And that's your problem. But aside from all the idiots in the world, what about the normal person like you and I? We want to be a good person. We believe in the Lord. But when we wake up in the morning, we're depressed and we haven't got the courage to get out there and face the day and accomplish anything good to make ourselves happy. Right? We don't even have enough strength to get up and go about our day and accomplish something good. We don't have enough strength to put a smile on our face to greet our husband when they come home from work, or our children when they come home from school. We don't have the gumption to tidy the house or make dinner or plan a vacation for our family or go hiking, take a picnic hike with the family, or wash the car so we're proud of our car. We don't even have the thinking or knowledge or the knowing within us that the world is good. We believe the world is evil based on the fact that we're unhappy, but we're being lied to and we're being deceived. We don't realize that the world is a place that requires us to have adventure. And to get the adventure, we have to be smart. We have to plant our garden, or else we're not going to have a harvest. We have to populate the world, or else there will be no people. We have to love one another, or else we're going to hate one another. We have to think positive thoughts, or else we're going to think negative thoughts. The negative thoughts, once they start coming in, they bring their brothers and sisters and their family. And now we've got a whole population of evil. And every time you bring in another demon, they bring in 2 or 3 more, until the whole house is full of evil. And we can't find a way out of this evil place, this depression. We can't even imagine how life could be worth living. Well, friends, it just starts with knowing the truth. And when you know the truth will set you free. We've got to get out of Babylon. Even in the world that we're living in today, there is a way to have happiness in eternal life. But it requires literally waking up, which no one else in the world is doing. You have to be a pioneer. You got to wake up, get out of the world, and go into the woods and live a natural life where you can walk barefoot through the grass, climb a mountain on a weekly, daily basis, interact with animals and nature, and accomplish stuff every day. And when you start accomplishing things, you want to jump up every morning and go out there and work in the garden. You want to get up every morning and be with your family and go someplace and do some things and build you a cabin and build you a barn and do all the things, learn to play the guitar and whatever else you might want to learn to do. And you'll have the desire to do all these good things. And you'll find out that just like every time you bring a demon into your house, he brings 2 of his friends and it finally gets overwhelming. Same thing with love. You bring in one good thought into your mind and it brings other thoughts, happy thoughts with it. You bring the right thought into your mind, a correct thought that makes sense. And a lot of other thoughts that make sense with that thought will come in right after it. And they'll build the life that you need, that will give you happiness and vitality, not just for yourself, but your whole family. But anyway, I see I'm over an hour. I think I'll just leave it there. I hope you understand what I'm saying, that we've got to do what the Bible says, get out of Babylon, even if there wasn't coming the end of the world. Because living in Babylon is what is killing us. But the other thing you have to understand, it's just logical and it's just truth, is that because this Babylon is so evil, it will fall. And you can just look around and see that Babylon's ready to fall. And you don't want to be in Babylon when it does fall. You want to get out, friends. Because if you know that Babylon's going to fall, because it's illogical and it can't support itself. It's the evil, wicked way of society that cannot be perpetuated. It's not perpetual motion. It cannot sustain itself by virtue of its constituents. It is designed to fail. If you make a house out of cards and the wind comes up, you know it's going to fall down. Babylon is immoral, illogical, and it's evil, and it will fall. And it's never been as evil and as corrupt and as ridiculous as it is now. The financial system is about to fall. The political system is about to fall. You see, they had to gamble when they brought out the AI because they knew that everybody's going to be talking to each other and that the truth would get out. So they're going to bring this to a close real quick because we're waking up. And as we wake up, many will not have oil in their lamps and they won't be able to get through this. And that's why I'm telling you this. It's very important that you learn the truth because the truth is the only thing that's going to set you free. And the truth is that we have a loving Heavenly Father and a divine Mother, and the Lord Jesus Christ is coming again. This wicked society is destroying the minds and the hearts of all of the people on this planet. And it's all been appointed. We're in a classroom. And it was told to us in prophecy that Babylon would do this and take over the world, and they'd all, in their greed and in their lust for wickedness, they'd all fail. But the wise would understand, and they would get out of Babylon, and they would get into the wilderness and wait for the coming of the Lord. And they would learn how to live in nature. They would learn how to love one another and feed the hungry, clothe the naked, forgive one another, and build up the kingdom of the Lord. That's what's going to be the coming of the kingdom. You know, the divine being dwells in us. We're the temple of the living deity. If we don't make room for the Lord to come into this temple, because the Lord's going to come into his temple. Behold, I'm going to send my messenger, and he will clear the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek will suddenly come to his temple, and the messenger of the covenant in whom ye delight. Behold, he is coming, say the Lord of hosts. Do you realize, guys, if we're the temple of the living deity, and we're not willing to let Jesus in, he's not going to be able to come. And so until there is a group of us that are willing to cleanse this sanctuary in our own heart, to make room, cast out all the devils and all the negativity and all the hate and all the wickedness. I know that sounds all religious and stupid to a lot of you, but I'm talking about things that are real. I'm not talking about some cult words or some kind of biblical words. I'm talking about real life words here. That unless we walk, we don't get anywhere. Unless we sing, we can't hear the melody. Unless we plant, we don't get to eat. Unless we live, we can't be happy. We can't die and expect to live. We've got to prepare ourselves. That lamp that needs the oil to be shining is your eye. The eye is the lamp of the body. And if that lamp goes out, how great that darkness is, Jesus said. So don't let your lamp go out. Be a vessel for the Lord to inhabit by spirit. We need enough of us to finally wake up enough out of this slumber to realize that we can't just say we're Christians and live in the world and live in Babylon. We got to get out of this evil, wicked system and do what the Lord says and have all things common and love one another and care for one another and live in peace. Enjoy the resources of this world and have eternal life. And when that day comes, which is appointed, the Lord had it all figured out. Our destiny is about to arrive. Right now, The revelation's being given. We're about to go through the latter rain. And the Holy Spirit's going to come down and fill up his temple. And then the Lord Jesus will come, and every eye will see him, even those who pierced him. Anyway, the Lord loves you all, you know. His grace and his peace will be with you. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.